the 16th Street Baptist Church, Birmingham, Alabama. It stands today as a monument to the civil rights movement. Not the conceptual kind created by an artist, but a real one that played a vital role in history and survived. They say this building has a soul with painful memories. For on September 15th, 1963, it lost 4 of its children. Fear and violence were ever present in Birmingham, Alabama in the 1960s. The city was nicknamed Bombing. The name fit, considering that in a 3-decade period, some 60 black-owned homes and churches had been bombed. Birmingham was also known as the most segregated city in the South. Martin Luther King had chosen it as a focal point for demonstrations demanding integration. If Birmingham was the center of the movement, the center of Birmingham was the 16th Street Baptist Church.
When the movement strategically moved to downtown Birmingham, it needed a larger facility to accommodate the mass meetings. So it was the place that was convenient for the mass meetings to happen.
To the people who came there, it was a living vessel that embodied the hopes and dreams of the movement. The church was also the epicenter of protests. It served as a staging area for mass demonstrations. Just outside its doors, protesters were met with dogs, fire hoses, clubs, and jail. To the enemies of the movement, the 16th Street Church had become a symbolic target. In the pre-dawn hours of September 15th, 1963, a car with 4 men pulled up right here alongside the church. They planted dynamite outside a basement door and set it with a timer to go off in a few hours, on a morning when church would be in progress. One of the 4 men appeared to be in charge, his name Robert Chambliss. He was a member of the Ku Klux Klan.
Chambliss was responsible for most of the violent acts against blacks in Birmingham for 3 decades. His nickname was Dynamite Bob, and instead of being ashamed about it, he gloried in it.
Back on September 15th, 1963, Carole McKinstry was the church secretary. As she was making her morning rounds before services began, the phone rang. A cold voice delivered an ominous message.
The caller on the other end said 3 minutes, and I really had no clue as to what he was really saying at that time.
But in a moment, Carolyn would understand what horrors could be inflicted in the name of racial hatred. As 4 young girls in the church basement prepared for services, a bomb hidden just a few feet from them ticked away precious seconds. As day broke in Birmingham, Alabama on September 15, 1963, a bomb planted by the Ku Klux Klan was about to destroy the sanctity of that Sunday. Carole McKinstry was 14 in 1963. She recalled seeing her 4 friends in the church basement. Denise McNair, the youngest, was 11.
If I could pick one word to describe Denise, I would probably say happy. She seemed just very well adjusted. She seemed to like everybody, and everybody liked her.
Addie Mae Collins was one of the 3 14-year-olds.
I knew Addie well. I knew her sisters, but quiet is the word. All of the sisters talked more than Addie. She was the quiet one in the group. Carole Robertson was my age, was very active in the Girl Scouts, was a very strong academic student, and what I remember about her was that she was a person with much promise. Of the 4 girls that were killed, I knew Cynthia Wesley probably better than most of them. She was always very neat, very polite, and a carefree spirit, someone that you were just very comfortable and happy to be around.
As the 4 young girls anticipated the sweet sounds they'd make with the choir, they had no idea of the impending horror that would end all their hopes and dreams.
They were combing hair and just primping, much like girls do, and just laughing and talking to each other when I passed by, and just excited.
At 10 a.m., the serenity of this house of worship was shattered. In an instant, 4 girls, Addie Mae Collins, Carole Robertson, Cynthia Wesley, and Denise McNair, were dead. 20 more were wounded. The church was badly damaged. Those who survived were also scarred.
All of our lives were forever changed because these 4 girls were gone. And I really found it hard to believe. I couldn't understand. Nobody could help me understand.
Oh, freedom. Oh,
At the funeral services, Martin Luther King told the gathered crowd of 8,000 mourners that these girls did not die in vain. This tragic event may cause the white South to come to terms with its conscience.
and go home to my
But as for justice, it would be 14 years before it arrived, even though suspects were known immediately after the bombing.
The Alabama State Troopers made an announcement that they had solved the case and they arrested Chambliss and the others, but the only thing they had them on was possession of explosives. And so that premature arrest threw a roadblock in the legitimate investigation of the FBI. That made everybody aware of where they were coming, and it hushed a lot of people up, and many people think that prevented the case from being solved at the early stages.
Not everyone agrees with this theory. Some contend that because of FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover's well-documented animosity towards Martin Luther King and the movement, the FBI failed to act decisively.
J. Edgar Hoover felt that the communists were controlling and manipulating Dr. King and others to embarrass America, and he turned his back. In Birmingham, J. Edgar Hoover and his agents knew who the 4 bombers of the Birmingham church was within a few days after the bombing, had evidence, but refused to prosecute because with the excuse that a white Southern jury wouldn't convict.
When we think about these killings and the lack of pursuit of the killers, that suggests to me cultural permissiveness. It was kind of all right.
The case languished for 13 years. Then in 1976, Alabama Attorney General Bill Baxley reopened the investigation. He recalls how he felt at the time of the bombing.
It sickened me in my stomach. Before that, I had thought that maybe I just wanted to leave the state, leave the South, and that made me decide I wanted to stay and try to do something about it.
Baxley's investigation of the case led him to Elizabeth H. Cobbs, a niece of Dynamite Bob Chambliss. Cobbs was haunted by the horror and evil of the crime that had gone unpunished. She revealed to Baxley incriminating statements Chambliss made to her before and after the bombing. Then she testified against her uncle.
That, in my mind, was the difference in winning and losing the case.
On November 18, 1977, on what would have been bombing victim Denise McNair's 25th birthday, Robert Chambliss was convicted of murder and given a life sentence. He died in jail in 1985. But this was not complete justice in Baxley's view, especially since Chambliss's alleged accomplices were never charged.
When you think about the enormity of what these people did, snuffing out those 4 little innocent lives, I wish it had been possible to have caught them all early and put them all in the electric chair.
The tragedy in Birmingham was anything but the last during the Civil Rights Movement. While some martyrs were innocent victims, like the 4 little girls, others were foot soldiers who, taking the risk and knowingly placed their lives in harm's way.